Tracing changes through thousand years. In our Indian history, there are so many changes that took place in our geographic and political respect. We can find traces of all the changes in our history. As we know, India was a famous country from long time, and people from other countries used to visit us mainly for trade purpose. For the same, various travelers have their own maps, like in 1154 CE, an Arab geographer named Al-Idrisi made a map of India with details of geographic features. The main thing you can see in this map is that the map is in inverted form, that is, the place we know as South India is on the upper side and also the Sri Lanka is on the upper side of the map. In his map, places like Kannauj and Uttar Pradesh was clearly indicated as these were fruitful for travelers and traders both. The tagging on the map was done in Arabic language and was created for the Norman king Roger II of Sicily. Also, the map is named as Tabula Rogeriana. The second map that we have with us was made approximately 600 years after the first map by a French cartographer in 1720s. It was quite different from the previous map in all respects. This map is similar to nowadays map. This map was used by European merchants and traders. This map was much useful than the previous map as it was more detailed with scientific terms used in it. Hindustan. As we know that the traces of history we found are in different languages. As in, different languages all the terms depict different meanings. Let's have an example of the term Hindustan. Hindustan is derived from the modern Persian word Hindu. In Old Persian, the region beyond the Indus River was referred to as Hindus, hence modern Persian Hind and Hindu. This combined with the Iranian suffix stan results in Hindustan, land of the Hindus. Also, during 13th century, writer Minhaj-e-Siraj denoted political context to denote kingdom areas of Punjab, Haryana and the lands between Ganga and Yamuna by the word Hindustan. The emperors Babur and Amir Khusro used the term Hindustan to describe the flora and fauna and the culture of the citizens of the Indian subcontinent. The another example is foreigner. In the medieval period, a foreigner was a stranger who was not a part of society or culture. For example, a forest dweller was a foreigner to a city dweller. In contrast, two persons from the same village were not foreigners to each other, even if they followed different religious or caste backgrounds. Historian. As history is a mystery where we can find new traces at any time which reveals the facts, for the same purpose, historians keep on working on those. Historian. A historian is a person who studies and writes about the past and is regarded as an authority on it. Historian became a professional occupation in the late 19th century. Let us see about writings. Manuscripts. A manuscript is any document written by hand as opposed to being printed or reproduced in some other way. Before the arrival of printing, all documents and books were manuscripts. Historians face many problems in using manuscripts. Some of them are as under. 1. Manuscripts are badly written, which are hardly understandable. 2. Sometimes due to lack of understandability of handwriting, historians are forced to guess what is written. 3. As scribes copied manuscripts, they also introduced small changes which grew over centuries. 4. Historians have to depend upon the copied version as the original manuscripts are rarely found. Historians divide the past into periods on the basis of economic and social factors to characterize the major elements of different moments of the past. The manuscripts were collected by wealthy people, rulers, and temples. They collect them in their collection, libraries, and archives. These scripts have enormous knowledge with them which was useful to them. Paper. The paper was used to write holy texts, chronicles of rulers, letters, and teachings of saints, petitions, and judicial records, accounts, and taxes. Technological changes affecting social, political, cultural, and economical. In the 1,000 years between 700 to 1750, there occurred large technological changes affecting social, political, cultural, and economical changes. Some of them are 1. Persian wheel in irrigation. 2. Spinning wheel in weaving. 3. Firearms in combat. 4. Eatables like corn, chilies, coffee. In that period, various religious changes took place with an instant manner. The major religious developments during this period were as under. 1. In Hinduism, new deities were worshipped and temples were constructed by royalty. 2. The Brahmins, the priests, dominated the other social classes. 3. The new dynamic relationship got developed among Brahmins and their patrons, new rulers, searching for prestige. 4. The idea of bhakti emerged. 5. Muslim religion and teachings of Quran were introduced in the subcontinent. In the same period, some communities became very famous and important. One of them was Rajputs. The Rajputs population and the former Rajput states were found spread through much of the subcontinent, particularly in north, west, and central India. The Rajputs stood out from the rest of the Indian society not because of their foreign origins, but their fanatical attempts to assert their Kshatriya status. From the beginning of the 9th century, Rajput dynasties dominated northern part of India, and the many petty Rajput kingdoms became the primary obstacle to the complete Muslim conquest of Hindu India. In this period, the society got divided into varnas according to which the people were classified on basis of caste. Varna system. Varna is the term for the 4 broad ranks into which the traditional Hindu society is divided. The 4 varnas are the Brahmins, priests and scholars, the Kshatriya, kings, governors, warriors and soldiers, the Vaishyas, cattle herders, agriculturists, artisans and merchants, the Shudras, laborers and service providers. Leaders and nobles from among the invaders were assimilated into the Kshatriya ritual rank in the Hindu Varna system, while others who followed and supported them, such as the Ahirs, Gurjars and Jats, were ranked as Shudra. The ways in which the affairs of the Jatis were regulated were as follows. 1. Jatis framed their own rules and regulations to manage the conduct of their members. 2. Jatis, Panchayat or the Assembly of Elders enforced these regulations. 3. Jatis also followed the rules of their villages. Regions. Earlier, The regions were divided on which a ruler ruled. Regions. Regions tend to be based on political units such as sovereign states, subnational units such as provinces, counties, townships, territories, etc. There is a term that arose during that time, pan-regional empire. 1. During the medieval period, there was enormous diversity among distinctive regions of the subcontinent. 2. Each region had its own geographical dimensions, own language, and cultural characteristics. 3. These regions were associated with specific ruling dynasties. 4. There was a considerable conflict between these states. 5. Therefore, the empire that ruled or controlled such diverse regions were called the pan-regional empires. For example, dynasties like the Cholas, Khaljis, Tughlaq, and Mughals were able to build the pan-regional empire. With the decline of the Mughals empire in the 18th century, there was a re-emergence of regional states. This was an emergence in many traditions in the realms of governance. In the history of British India, distinguished three phases in the history of India were, namely Hindu, Muslim, and British civilizations. Islam first came to India with Arab traders as early as 7th century AD to coastal Malabar. Many Sanskrit books were translated into Arabic as early as the 8th century. Muslims believe the Quran to be the book of divine guidance revealed from God to Muhammad through the angel Gabriel over a period of 23 years and view the Quran as God's final revelation to humanity. Jainism. Jainism was established by a lineage of 24 enlightened beings, culminating with Parsva, 9th century BCE, and Mahavira. Buddhism was historically founded by Siddhartha Gautama, a Kshatriya prince turned ascetic, and was spread beyond India through missionaries. It later experienced a decline in India, but survived in Nepal and Sri Lanka, and remains more widespread in Southeast and East Asia.